57,000 already here, more than 90,000 expected by the end of the year, as more and more children continue to cross the border illegally. And the costs are skyrocketing, and then some. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and it's not just a humanitarian crisis. It is fast becoming a financial one. More than $100 million a week to keep these kids, up to $1,000 per bed. And in Texas, taxpayers are discovering they're going to be hit with their own $50 million bill to deal with the surge at their border. To Sheriff Joe Arpaio says there is a way around this. How, Sheriff?
Well, first of all, I think I mentioned on your show about a month ago we should take away their foreign aid, at least reduce the foreign aid, and use that savings to help fund this disastrous issue we have facing our borders in our country right now. If they don't want to do anything, take away all their foreign aid. I'm talking about Mexico and the Central American countries involved.
So you wouldn't extend this to the Central American countries involved, because most of these kids coming in here are coming via Central America, but you would still owe Mexico responsible because they're obviously going right through Mexico.
Yeah, they're coming through Mexico, across the Mexican-U.S. border. One thing that confuses me, you know, I was the head of the DEA in those countries, and you do know we have intelligence agencies, including the CIA. You're trying to tell me the CIA in those countries and a U.S. ambassador did not know this was coming?
Did you, Sheriff, did any of your guys, as an alert, there seemed to be inordinate waves of illegals, let alone kids coming here, even more than we normally get?
Well, we knew the kids were coming across because they were transporting marijuana. We arrested a lot of young people for transporting drugs into the U.S. and my county. That's nothing new.
So the administration, by your man, given all the intelligence that we presumably have at our disposal, because we can collect better than 100 million Americans' phone records in a snap, that we should have known and might have known that this invasion was going on.
Yeah, nobody asked that question. Maybe they ought to do an audit of Homeland Security, a bureaucratic agency that's in a big mess. Maybe there's ways to save money. Come on, you can't save $3 billion. Maybe the president should stop touring the world and stay home and save Secret Service funds. That's under the Homeland Security. So, you know, if you really want to cut and save money, you can do it. As I mentioned, we have 4,000 illegal immigrants in the jails that I run, including a tent city jail. So why not put up tents, at least for those that are 15, 16, 17, and put them all in tents? In fact, when you look at how they are being incarcerated by the federal government, my tents are Hilton hotels compared to what they're doing down there. But you know, the Department of Justice, 6 years, been investigating me, the way I run the jails. They ought to investigate what's going on right now.
What do you think of the president not going to the border?
Well, he says it's a photo op. Come on, it's bigger than that. I remember working under Nixon. Nixon made a big issue of this. We almost, we closed the border for 2 weeks, and that sent a message. But he should have gone down there. He was right in Texas. Come on. How long does it take? He can get a good Mexican meal at least. Maybe he should pop over the border. Pop over the border and start dealing and threatening the Mexican president. That's what he should be doing.
You know a lot of these authorities in Mexico yourself, because you have to deal with them directly and indirectly. What do they think of the way we're handling this?
Well, I don't know what they're thinking. As I mentioned before on your show, if they really want to cooperate, let's send the Border Patrol and the military across the border on a bilateral nature and work together and get the job done. You know that would never be done.
Well, what do you think of their idea right now? That is the administration's idea. It's being kicked around. Sure, we can't, verify this. That one option for all of these kids is to put them up in military facilities, military hospitals. I thought that was one of the options we were looking at for our vets, but apparently these kids are going to get first dibs.
Of course, they're going to get treatment, medical. I can go on and on. What about our poor veterans? They're having problems. Come on, this is a game plan. It's been planned, but it's sort of backfiring. I don't think the White House knew that this will become a big issue with the media and also, you know, the government. So I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't smell right and doesn't pass the smell test.
Governor Rick Perry, of course, has been to the border many times, just recently with our show on Hannity. You've been impressed by him in the past, more so now? You're looking at him for president? What?
Yeah. I did a tour, he and I, together for two days on a bus in Iowa. You know, just he and I got to know him even better then when I supported him. No, I think he'll make a great president. So let's see what happens in the next 2 years.
Sheriff, always good seeing you. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, as the sheriff pointed out, the president could not make it to the border, but he did make it to a barbecue.
I feel a little bad, but I'm going to cut.
Wait a minute. I thought you said you weren't into photo ops. Maybe not ones at the border, but no problem posing for pictures at a barbecue joint not too far from the border. Art Laffer wonders. Art, what do you think?
Well, you know, it's very hard to discuss these issues sort of in a highbrow intellectual fashion. I mean, this
certainly
is
not
really
on this show. Right.
Not on this. Well, this show it's pretty good usually. But I mean, I don't see the downside of why he didn't go to the border. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, what would the downside have been? And now he claims it's a photo op, which is silly on the face of it, and I think it's costing him a lot. What it really tells me, Neil, is that he is not getting good advice, or he's not following that advice from his staff. And that really bodes very poorly for him going long term. So I think his internal organization isn't doing well. But you can't give away something for free and not expect it to be overused and overtaken. And giving all of these people U.S. access, 57,000 you said, and they all get welfare, they all get spending, they all get ultimately citizenship or whatever else it is. You can't do that. I mean, otherwise we'll have 570,000, 5.7 million. It won't stop as long as we're giving away those resources.
You know, but what gets a little irksome, and I guess, you know, you could fault all politicians for this, the blame game, you know. Of course, the president blames Republicans for this, and Republicans blame the president for this. But here we be with the tens of thousands of kids coming here and more on the way, and no one with a credible or realistic plan to stop it. His own $3.7 billion plan is big on processing fees, but not so much on just preventing this from happening at the border fees. In other words, more soldiers, more troops on the ground. So I just wonder how effective it really will be.
Well, it really sounds very ugly saying more troops on the ground on the border between the U.S. and Mexico. That's right. But what you have to do is you have to make it so these people don't get free goods when they get here. And to abandon your children on the border in the U.S. border town is just disgusting. I mean, if we spent $10,000 per person, that would be 5.7 billion, what, 570 billion, a million, just to send them all back. Just fly them back there, take buses and go. I mean, but you can't allow this to happen. People will arbitrage incentives. I love worker programs. I love as many foreigners as you can get as long as they're productively employed and making America a better place. I'm for open borders for employment, but I'm not for open borders for welfare. I don't think that's the right way to go. But both welfare and good jobs are both attractants to foreigners, and you've just got to stop the one and encourage the other.
I also wonder, too, whether the foreigners looking at what's going on in our country now and the folly at the border are actually incentivized to sort of gun the system and to say, kids or anyone, you know, now's the time to spring in there.
Exactly what it is. And if you go down to Honduras or Guatemala or some of these other places where I've been, I mean, $10,000 is a lot of money. I mean, this is a great deal of resources. And then what would you give, Neil, if you didn't live in the United States, to be able to have your family come here?
No, absolutely.
And to be everything. So these people are responding just like all the rest of us would if we were down there, if we were granted these free resources. And what we've got to do is stop that. That's where we've got to stop it. And, you know, I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's a bill, to be honest with you. I think it's the president's got to say, we've got to stop this right now. And it means that we send them all back. As soon as they get here, you can't get it for free. The welfare. Now, workers, a totally different one. I'd like to see every PhD of a foreigner have a green card stapled to it. They would add enormously to our country. These people are just coming here on welfare. And that doesn't add to our country.
Well, we shall see. It's nowhere near resolved. Art Laffer, good seeing you again.
Good seeing you, Neil. Thank you.
All right, now what? It's been almost 4 weeks since my friend Montel Williams was here, right? Talking about the VA mess. Well, we're going into another weekend, Congress heading home, and guess what? No fix for our vets.